One of the biggest questions I've got going into the Rise of Skywalker is how did Palpatine survive the events of Return of the Jedi if he actually did it all? It seems pretty likely that we will see him in the flesh in Episode 9, so today I wanted to look back at some of the books and comics that may have hinted towards the Emperor's return and try to make some guesses about what we'll see in December. First, I think Palpatine did, in fact, die at the Battle of Endor. I think his physical body ceased to be, and it probably hurt. I made this joke in our Q&A last week, but his scream is not one of confidence or defiance, it's of shock and fear. I don't think him being thrown down a reactor shaft was ever part of his plan to wipe out the rebellion and rule the galaxy. This sounds stupid to say out loud, but him dying was probably a major setback and not some weird long con to really rule the galaxy 30 years later. But we all know Palpatine, and he is a planner. His machinations on Naboo and in the Galactic Senate also show that he is patient. So it does make sense to me that Sheev would have something in his back pocket in the event of Vader trying to kill him. It is the way of Sith apprentices, after all. We know about Operation Cinder and the purposeful destruction of the Empire, but I think we're going to learn that the contingency had many more steps, probably involving a hidden fleet and a creepy throne. So my guess here is that while the Emperor did physically die, his spirit probably survived somehow, a lot like Voldemort in Harry Potter. Things start to get a little iffy here because we've been told that dark-side users cannot achieve life after death to become Force ghosts, but we have seen plenty of Sith Lords between canon and legends do everything they can to cling to life. The mighty Chewbacca in the Forest of Fear shows us a malignant spirit that haunted a book. Darth Maul famously survived being cut in half through sheer rage and a desire for revenge. Momin was killed by his own weapon and his essence was trapped inside his mask. And that's the most important example, I think. Masks have been brought up a number of times in the books and comics. Momin's mask is the most recognizable, but the Aftermath trilogy also placed importance on them. One of Palpatine's advisors, Tashu, spoke of the power of masks. He owned many of them, and at one point uses one to basically possess a young girl with the dark side, not so different from the power Momin's mask has. I've seen people throw around the idea that Palpatine could have somehow imbued Vader's helmet with his own energies, that he's been stuck there for 30 years, but once Kylo Ren got a hold of it, he had a way out. He began speaking with him, showing him the power of the dark side, and probably filling his head with lies. But of course, Ben wouldn't know any better and would think he was speaking with the actual owner of the mask, his grandfather. Anakin's death was so closely linked with Palpatine's, and with all that Force lightning shooting around, I think that's a pretty elegant solution. It also might give us some clues as to why Kylo and Rey are seemingly working together to destroy it in the final trailer for The Rise of Skywalker. Maybe they realize that the Emperor is still inside, and they are led to believe that destroying it will destroy him once and for all. I really like the idea that Sheev is set loose again by good intentions. As for where he gets a physical body, I think we can again maybe turn to Tashu for answers. In the first Aftermath book, he tells Wedge that Sith Lords could drain the Force energy from their captives, siphoning life from them and using it to strengthen their connection to the dark side, extending their own lives so that they could live for centuries. We've seen stuff like that in action in the Clone Wars as well. I've always hated the idea of a Palpatine clone and the old essence transfer power. I much more like the idea that Palpatine's spirit is set loose, and then maybe he will be able to simply use the Force to drain the life out of other people in order to reform his physical body. Or maybe he won't ever physically appear and he'll just be some sort of visible spirit the entire time. I still think that gets a little iffy with the rules about Force Ghosts that George Lucas very explicitly laid out. I would just rather see this have a mystical solution rather than a technological one like clones. Whatever happens, once Palpatine is back in spirit form and he's got his bearings, I think he could just trigger whatever final contingency he has ready to either take control of or just eradicate the galaxy. There's a reason that fleet of Star Destroyers are Imperial Class 1. They must have been hidden for a long time, probably longer than the 30 years after Return of the Jedi. If he does physically return, I think he'll probably try to rule the galaxy again. If he's somehow stuck as a spirit, like if he's just trapped wherever that creepy throne is, then I could see him wanting to just destroy everything out of spite. I wanted to talk about this because Palpatine's return has always been troublesome to me. I'm glad they put it in the teaser so I had plenty of time to get used to it. I wasn't a fan of his return in Legends, but that doesn't mean it can't be done well now. And the fact that there has been potential foreshadowing for his return as far back as the first Aftermath novel is pretty awesome. I have to admit, I really like the idea of him being stuck in Vader's mask, manipulating Kylo all this time. The final thing I'll say, because I get asked about it a lot, is do I think Palpatine used the world between worlds to survive? No, I really hope not. One of Ezra's last acts before taking Thrawn to who knows where was to stop the Emperor from being able to access it. I don't want Ezra's actions to have been a small setback. I want him to have stopped Palpatine from ever finding that place. But those are my thoughts. I'm still kinda talking myself through this idea that I'm not crazy about. If I wind up not liking Palpatine's return, oh well, it is what it is. I'll just focus on the parts of the movie that I'm sure I will love. Let me know what you think of Sheev coming back in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.